I'm going to be completely honest with you. I am feeling the frustration at the moment. My desire is to make some amazing, video for you where I explain things so well that it's just going to go so crystal clear into your mind about Saturn and Aries, and all of the things will just fall into place. And I just want to just power through it, right? I want to Aries style it. I'll be like, yeah, I want to tell you all this stuff. I want to tell you these stories. I want to tell you this information. And Saturn's going, girl, no, it's got to be slowed down. You have to be struggling a little bit to get this out. And I am. I've been trying to figure out how I want to structure this. And what's going on? Well, Saturn has entered Aries. Saturn has entered Aries for the first time in a Saturn cycle since the 90s, 96 to be exact. Saturn entered Aries on May 25th, 2025, and will be there for a nice little preview section until September 30th, 2025. Then it'll go back into Pisces, back into the Magical Mystery Tour for a little bit longer. And in February of 2026, it enters back into Aries again. And that's where it'll be for about 2.5 years. What's the deal here? Saturn is in its fall in Aries because Aries is impulsive. Aries doesn't care about plans. Aries just wants to be, wants to do. Speed and action. And Saturn is just not like that. Saturn is the slow planet. It's the regulations, rules, balance, right? That's what's happening. That's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling like I want to go quickly. I want to go because I feel this energy in Aries. I feel inspired and I feel like really the depth of it. But it's also like running a marathon and somebody telling you to slow down. It's like acting really fast and hitting roadblocks and feeling stuck and not really knowing, do I speed up or do I slow down? It's about thinking before we do things. There's going to be some setbacks. That's part of the deal. So one thing I was thinking about is that Mars is the ruler of Aries and Saturn is in its fall there. That's kind of weird because Mars in Saturn's sign, Capricorn, is exalted there. And the exaltation means that that's where the planet works best. So I'm like, why would Saturn be in such terrible shape in Aries? Well, it's because Mars has a strategic element to it. In Capricorn, there's structure. There's structure that can take that Mars power, passion, drive, and create a structure so that the strategy can work. That makes sense. Mars in Capricorn is exalted. Whereas over in the other side, Aries is the most bold and passionate, like expressive, doesn't give about much of anything other than going and doing and feeling alive, feeling that I amness. And Saturn there just kind of can feel like, what are you doing here? You're making me slow. You're slowing me down, man. There's no a reciprocal value there because the fast energy and Saturn, it doesn't help Saturn. Saturn's in there trying to build structure, trying to contain something, just like it was in Pisces. It's trying to contain the dream. It's trying to contain the universe, and there's a love that's a little bit blurry, and because it's hard to understand, it's too big, too difficult. And then we go into this real directed energy, like kind of like the Big Bang. If you think about Pisces being all that stuff that must have been there before, coming all down into a single point and then exploding out again. That's kind of the midpoint there, the restart, the reset. It's taking all that energy, all that information, trying to contain it, and then it all contains itself. Maybe that's Saturn's job. It gets in there, and then Aries just blows it open again. Even though Saturn is in its fall in Aries, and it's been weirded out in Pisces for a while. No offense, but it is, a little difficult for Saturn to be in both of these places. We have some benefits. Like the benefits are going to be great, but it doesn't mean it's going to come easy. We also have Neptune in Aries and they're coming into conjunction. We have Pluto making its move because there's a nice sextile there. It's complex, it's complicated, but there are some beautiful things that come out of Saturn in Aries. We're going to be infused in some way. We're going to want to do something that is very practical, very contained. This is what Saturn's going to do here. And that is almost like trying to break a wild horse in a way, and not in a bad way, but like once you have the horse that is not a wild stallion that's going to knock you off and step on you potentially, you have a partner. You have a horse that's going to be able to take you places, and you're going to be able to work together, and you can create a lot more practical use from a horse that's your partner than a wild stallion. I guess that's kind of analogy there. So what can it bring? Some bold leadership that has a mix of bravery from Aries and the responsibility of Saturn. It's going to be sort of more smart, less impulsive. But that can be frustrating. Like the way I've been feeling today. I'm like, I want to do these things, but I keep getting all these roadblocks, all these stoppers, and I almost want to quit. I almost want to stop and just like, okay, I'm just wasting my time. There's another Saturn thing there. Time, like I feel it being wasted. Isn't that interesting? It's like the Aries is so focused on just doing it. Just make sure it gets done. Just go, just go. And Saturn's like, this is a time thing that you have going on here. We need to manage this and make it sure that it is all up on the up and up. Anyway, so there could be some opportunities though for more bold leadership that has smarter choices. Focusing the action a little bit more, taking that quick energy and putting it into something steady, starting projects with plans and then finishing them strong. But you can see how when the desire is there to just do it, the plan feels like a wet blanket. That's what the problem is. That's the fall of Saturn. That's what I'm trying to express, I think. There's some more resilience though, a little bit more of a toughness there. We're building something that is leading us to mastery of ourselves. Aries is the I am. Wherever you have it in your chart, that's where you are more independent. You need more space. You don't need people telling you what to do. And Saturn is kind of like that. Saturn is kind of like a Debbie Downer at times. It's kind of like being a parent, especially to a teenager where you have to tell them, no, you can't do that. And they're driving, they have all this freedom, right? Aries freedom. And you have to reel them in, very Saturnian, and say, no, you have a curfew. No, you have to do these chores. No, you have, no, go to school. It's sort of a wild stallion situation again, like being a parent to a teenager. It's this Aries and Saturn combination that gets frustrating on both sides. I think Saturn gets frustrated too, because it's too much, too fast, and it just wants to slow things down here. Why? So it wants to do a good job. Saturn is the planet of mastery. You can't become a master overnight. But the thing about Aries is just do it. You can't become a master unless you freaking do it, unless you start, unless you get onto the plains and find that dang horse that you that you want to tame. Aries says, go find it, go find that thing. So together, you can see there's friction. There's friction there. It's difficult, but it also will work. There's a strength to this combination, and it can be a chance for us to embrace something that's bold, but also meaningful, something that requires discipline and everyday action, little bit, that builds up to greatness. And that I amness, that empowerment, the confidence that Aries requires, that's where we're learning to be that more of a confident person here. Whichever it falls in your chart, whatever whole sign house. So when I was thinking about Saturn in Aries, I was thinking about Ernest Shackleton. If you know who that is, Ernest Shackleton was an explorer back in the early 1900s. He was born in the late 1870s. He was born in Ireland. His dad was a doctor. They moved to London when he was 10 years old, and the dad wanted him to be a doctor. And Shackleton didn't. He didn't want to do that at all. He wanted to explore and live his life and be free. When he was 16 years old, he joined the Merchant Marines. Can you imagine? I was a 16-year-old. I cannot imagine my child going to be in the Merchant Marines, but he did. And it was like a dream come true for him because he wanted to explore. He wanted to go and see things. Now, in the 1900s, Britain was kind of obsessed to conquer Antarctica. It was one of the last frontiers. It was very Aries, very pioneer. Cold though, so. There's Saturn's influence. It's cold. It's a cold place to explore, but it's a frontier. It's a bold thing to do. Now, Ernest Shackleton, when he was 27 in 1901, somehow or another, he talked himself onto this ship that was going to Antarctica. He didn't have any experience with this, but he did it anyway. And they were going to try to reach the South Pole. They were trying to beat all the other countries that were also trying to get to the South Pole first. In 1901 to 1903, Saturn was in Aries. So this is a good story. He's really more famous for what happened in his later expedition, but this is his first one where he really had to show his grit. The Discovery was the name of the ship, and it was designed to smash through ice, which of course it had to do. And it was going to Antarctica, and that was in January 1902 they arrived. Burr, cold. It was brutal. Negative 30-degree temperatures and blizzards. It was just awful. So Shackleton was the third officer. He was very charismatic. He could recite Keats' poetry. People loved him. Everybody loved him. And so the crew's spirits were lifted. He was a really great member of the crew, but they loved him a lot. He was a third officer. He was the one that had to do a lot of the, testing the seawater, blah, 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 boring stuff for him. He wanted to do something. So finally he talked the leader's name, I can't remember his name, but the guy that was in charge of the whole thing, he talked him into letting him go on the expedition. So the expedition leader chose Shackleton and this other guy, Edward Wilson, and they were going to go on a sledge. And the sledge was no small feat. It was like a dog sled, but these two guys were pulling everything they needed to go 420 miles closer to the Arctic, to the pole is what they were trying to get to, the South Pole. They had to carry everything on the sledge. It weighed 700 pounds. They had 19 husky dogs, but the rations for the dogs were spoiled. So the dogs were weak. The dogs were terribly weak. Shackleton and this other guy that was with him, they were surviving on 1,800 calories and they needed about 5,000 calories. So it was just brutal. They were basically starving and they had to pull the sledge. The dogs couldn't really do it. Then it got kind of worse. Shackleton ended up with scurvy because he wasn't eating any fresh food, and so it was his joints were aching. He was weak. He had a cough. He seemed like he had a heart issue, but he didn't stop. He kept going. They started in November 1902. By December 30th, 1902, they reached 82 degrees south, 463 miles away from the South Pole. That's as far as they got. It's the furthest anybody ever got, but it wasn't close enough. Shackleton really gave out. He collapsed in the snow, gasping for air. He had to get back, though, the 420 something miles. That was rough. It was torture. They were getting frostbite. The dogs were passing away. It was just awful. And they got finally back in February of 1903. I don't even know. This just has to be Saturn powering through. And Scott was the name of the captain. He thought that Shackleton was too ill to stay, but he also had jealousy because Shackleton was so good with the crew. Everybody loved him, and it kind of made Scott look like he wasn't that great of a leader because everybody preferred Shackleton. So back on base, that was a good excuse for Scott to send Shackleton home. And so by March, he was deemed too ill to stay, and he was sent home on a relief ship called the Morning. And really not happy. Ernest Shackleton, even though he'd been through that, he had frostbite, scurvy. Crossing the Arctic in blizzards and the crevices that you can fall into and die. It was just hard. And still, he felt like he didn't accomplish what he was there to do, was to get to the South Pole. He wanted that. He felt like he let Britain down. But his failure led to him becoming stronger. So even though that was deemed a failure during that Saturn and Aries period, in 1914, he went back, and this time he was the captain of the Endurance expedition. This was the one that was really, really famous. He got all the way to Antarctica, but it was not great because they were stuck in the ice floes for a long time. Their ship was iced in. There was no way they could get out. It was negative 40 degrees. They were stranded, 28 of them in 1915. So he decided to take 5 men, including the navigator, on a 22-foot lifeboat. It's not that big. It's an 800-mile journey to this next nearest place where there's actual humans. It's an island called South Georgia. It's a glacier-covered island. They had 80-foot waves, 100-mile-an-hour winds. The fog hid the stars. They ended up on the other side of the island where this was a whaling stop. It was basically all it was. So there weren't that many people there, but if he didn't get to somebody, all his men would die. All of them would die. So they ended up having to walk 36 hours over 7,000-foot glaciers just to get to where there were humans on the other side of that island. And by May 20th, they reach the storm's whaling station. Shackleton organized a rescue and every person was saved. Every person was saved. This is raw courage, determination, discipline. And he learned that. He learned it the first time, really the hard way. And I guess maybe that's what my point is that we're getting a preview. It's almost like Shackleton's preview of what he was going to accomplish later because of the discipline, because of the hard work, because of the challenges that he faced and didn't give up. He was able to accomplish something even harder the next time and survive and thrive and save people and be great. So, what does this mean for you? Good question, Lindsay. I think what it means is we're taking this kind of impossible dream, whatever it has been in the last 2.5 years that's inspired you, Saturn and Pisces, whatever that piece of your chart is, something has come through there. And that because it's kind of a magical mystery world there's not a lot of containment, but the idea, the imagination is contained. Saturn brings it into Aries and it's like, okay, go. You had this dream, Shackleton, to be an explorer. Is that what you really want? Okay, I'll send you to a dredge and see how you do there, bud. And that's the test. And what comes out of it is mastery. Something you're mastering. Then your I amness, your expression of yourself, of your power, of your big bang, whatever's inside of you, and actually doing it. Do the thing, even if it's hard. Yeah, okay. The weirdest thing about these videos is like they literally do take on for me whatever the energy is. I don't know. It's just some sort of inner flow of space through my personal experience that comes through whatever I'm creating here. And the frustration I feel, I'm not kidding. Like I really do feel like, oh, you might be able to tell, and it might be annoying to watch me feeling frustrated. But I think it also proves that if you don't stop, if you don't give up, if you continue to move forward, no matter what, it's just the next stepping stone. You can't get to the top of the mountain Saturn style unless you take one step at a time. And that's the slowdown too, that maybe it's the frustration because Aries just wants to go, man. And Saturn's like, you have to learn how to walk before you can run. Okay? Okay. You need to learn how to do these things. And for both parties, maybe it's frustrating, but in the end, the results are pretty amazing. I do have readings open for your natal chart or anything that you actually really want to talk about. We can go anywhere, anyhow, whatever way you want to go with exploring your natal chart. It's pretty exciting to really get down to learning mostly about your path, your individuation, and what's going on. There's so much in 2025 that is igniting different areas of each person's chart. If you haven't looked into it, it may be something to consider during this period of time. I like you just the way you are. Thank you for exploring these ideas with me, and I will talk to you next time.